This is a comparison of the trains in Istanbul in Turkey. Let's start off with the metro trains, starting with Metro Line 1, located on the Europe side of Istanbul. This is an older metro line and it's got some interesting older trains.
Hell. This driver new or something?
So then, let's now take a look at Line 2. This line runs right through the centre of Istanbul, Europe, making it a very busy metro line. But the trains are not as frequent as you might expect for such a busy route, meaning in rush hour the trains are absolutely rammed. One thing about this line and most of the other lines in Istanbul, which is very annoying, is the platform speed limit, meaning you don't get to enjoy the full acceleration of the train as it has to hold its speed until it's left the platform. And on Istanbul Line 2, there's no platform doors, so there's no reason to have a platform speed limit, but they've still put it in anyway, which is just annoying. Metro Line 2 has got two different types of train. Let's start off with the older trains. And now let's take a look at Metro Line 2 Shuttle, which is a small shuttle service just between two stations. And now let's take a look at the newer type of metro train on Line 2.
Gelecek istasyon Darüşşafaka. Next station Darüşşafaka.
So, before I continue with this video, here's a little rant about changing trains in Istanbul. Unlike most other metro systems in the world, there's easy ways to change between the lines. On Istanbul, when you change from one line to another, you have to go up all the escalators, all the way to street level, and sometimes even have to walk a couple of 100 meters down the street. Then go back in a different station entrance, back down the escalators to get to the other line. And on the stations where there is a tunnel to get between the different lines, the tunnels are pretty much just below the street, so you still haven't got up the escalators to almost the surface. And the tunnels are crazily long. Look how long this tunnel is. And this video is going at 10 times speed. Changing trains is just painful here. Anyway, let's now go on to the next metro line, which is Line 3, also located in the Europe side of Istanbul. Line 3 is a very modern, newly built metro line. But unlike the other brand new lines, it doesn't have platform doors and is only grade 2 automation, unlike the other lines which are grade 4, meaning it still has to have a driver at the front, even though the driver's not actually driving it, which I find a little bit disappointing for a brand new line. This line's got some very nice Alstom trains with a very nice sounding VF drive. So let's now take a look at Metro Line 9, which is pretty much part of Line 3. They've sort of divided Line 3 up into two different sections. The most recent extension on Line 9 has just recently opened. Now Metro Line 9 has shorter platforms. They're only 4 cars long, and because of that shorter length, you don't get that annoyance of the platform speed limit, so you get to experience the trains accelerating all the way to full speed in one clean go. This has the same type of Alstom trains as Line 3. So then, let's now go along to Metro Line 4. This is located in the other side of Istanbul, over in the Asia side. Istanbul is huge. It's twice the size of London. It's effectively 2 Londons back to back. One on the Europe side and one on the Asia side. So Line 4 is the oldest metro line in Istanbul, Asia. It's got some older trains which are nice, but again the platform speed limit means you don't get to experience a clean acceleration. and let's now sneak into the train cab.
So inside a locker door.
So then, let's now take a look at Metro Line 5, located in the Asia side of Istanbul. This is a Grade 4 automated driverless railway line, and it's very nice. Sadly, it's still got platform speed limits, which are a bit annoying, but it's still a very nice line to go on.
Sayın yolcularımız, lütfen kapı önünde beklemeyiniz. Aracın boş kısımlarına doğru ilerleyiniz. Dear passengers, please do not wait at the doorways and proceed to the empty section. Gelecek istasyon İmam Hatip Lisesi. Next station İmam Hatip Lisesi. İmam Hatip Lisesi.
So then, let's now take a look at Metro Line 8. This is currently the only north-south metro line on the Asia side of Istanbul. However, there's loads of other metro lines currently under construction in the Asia side, so I'll have to return back to Istanbul at a later date.
Gelecek istasyon Eminali Paşa. Next station Eminali Paşa. Eminali Paşa. İstasyon İçerenköy. Next station İçerenköy. İçerenköy.
So then, let's let's now go back to the Europe side of Istanbul and go to the old creepy metro line, line 6. This has got some very interesting old trains and the whole line looks very run down and it's very fun to go on. So let's take a break from the metro for a moment and take a look at the funicular. As at the end of line 6, there is a funicular, which is the best funicular in Istanbul. Because there's quite a few different funiculars here, but the rest of them are all very slow. Like this one, which is funicular 3. Painfully slow, with very annoying, painfully long levelling. And quite a lot of funiculars are like this. They look great, but they just don't run very well. But that's not the case for funicular 4, which is a very nice underground funicular, running pretty nicely. So then, let's now take a look at Metro Line 11, the Express. This line is on the Europe side of Istanbul and it is epic. It goes 75 miles an hour through the tunnels and it runs a long distance out to the airport and it's got very long distances between stations. And unlike most airport expresses that just go from the city to the airport, this one goes from the city all the way out to the airport, then goes back on itself back to another part of the city, but that last part is not yet open. Besides Sadly, this line only has a train every 20 minutes. That's a shit service, and the trains are rammed on the first part of the line. The trains on this line are some Chinese trains, the same ones you'd get on the metros in China, and it's got that really nice Chinese door closing chime. Sadly though, these trains are only grade 2, but apparently the new order of trains they're building for this line will be grade 4. Fucking hell, there's nothing here. Where's the cargo terminal? I've come to cargo terminal station. And there's no cargo terminal, it's empty. There's nothing fucking here. There's literally nothing. What's the point of this? Station in the middle of nowhere. Just look how nice this station looks. Yet it's in the middle of nowhere and nobody is using it. This is crazy. This is weird. Posh new station. Looks really nice. Yet no one's using it. And now let's take a look at Metro Line 7 on the Europe side of Istanbul. This line is identical in style and trains to Line 8.
Kazım Karabekir.
So that's the Metro lines complete. Let's now take a look at the Suburban line. This is a suburban railway running all the way from the outskirts of the Europe side right into the centre, then through a tunnel across to the Asia side, then all the way to the outskirts of Asia. This is the only railway between the Europe and Asia sides of Istanbul, which to be honest is quite ridiculous. It's a huge city, twice the size of London, but only one railway connecting up the two halves. Now the reason for this is due to earthquakes. The two sides of Istanbul move every time there's an earthquake, meaning building a regular tunnel is not possible, as it would be snapped in half when that happens. So the tunnel actually sits on the seabed. It is a sunken tunnel, and it's made up of different sections which can move as the ground moves. Now, I've got a criticism of the Suburban line, and that is with how expensive that tunnel was to build and the fact they're not building any more tunnels. That means they should fully utilise that tunnel. It's taking huge amounts of people and the trains are rammed. The problem is that this was built as a suburban main line, not a metro, and that limits capacity because suburban lines cannot run as frequently as a metro line can. If I was building this tunnel, I would have done it very differently. I would have merged two different lines through the tunnel. You could merge the trains per hour of two separate lines together as long as there's no stations in the merged section, because it's the stations that limit the number of trains per hour due to the dwell time at each station. But if you have separate platforms for the two lines, merge the two together for the expensive tunnel, then unmerge them at the other end as separate platforms, you can then double that capacity of that tunnel, because the trains are rammed and there's just not enough capacity between the two sides of Istanbul. But anyway, let's take a look at this line on the outer reaches of the Europe side where the trains are not so rammed, so I can get a good video.
Gelecek istasyon Yeşilyurt. Next station Yeşilyurt.
train is rammed. I don't want enough of these, considering it's the only railway line that goes between the two halves of Istanbul. The train's always rammed. And now let's take a look at its line on the outer reaches of the Asia side.
Platform 2, 10, cars train. The train will stop at the end of the platform. Dear passengers, please give priority to landing passengers.
So then, let's now take a look at line U3. This line runs on the old route of the Istanbul railways before the tunnel got built. This line was pretty much made into a little branch line. It's a very weird line, doesn't really serve anywhere of use, it sort of just goes round in a dog's leg. So then, let's now take a look at the trams. Let's start off with tram 1, which is a very busy tram route. take a look at Tram 5, which is a nice tramway. Most of it runs on its own dedicated track. It runs pretty well, although I would like it to go a bit faster, to be honest. And the weirdest thing is it doesn't have overhead cables. It has an electric rail in the middle of the track, which gets turned on and off as the tram goes along it. To be honest, I find this rather questionable. If that goes wrong, that could be very bad.
O da aynı. Yani orada kafe derleri çok güzel. Orada akşam üstüleri çalmak oluyor. Kadıköy mü? Yok. Karaköy.
Gelecek istasyon Plaklara. Next station Plaklara.
O sizdedir. Genelde üniversite şartlar yanında. Ya işi burada tamam yani her şey güzel. Para akışı gibi olabilir ama şimdi sahne yapacaksın. Yani yapıldığında yaşa gidiyor.
Gelecek istasyon Eğitim Devri Nokta. Next station Eğitim Devri Nokta.
Bekle fayda var ya.
And now let's take a look at the Metro Tram. And despite being a Metro Tram, it's a bit slow really.
Tamam onun işlediği bir tarafa da sen de geber.
There's also 2 historic trams in Istanbul. I filmed these previously. I was going to film them again, but I got distracted because these 2 trams are actually legal surf trams. You're actually allowed to go and surf them. You can surf it past the police, I don't care because it's actually legal here. So check out my video of the historic trams over on Rumble, as YouTube does not allow that kind of video.